What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I'm LotusAsakura, the one who knows best, and today I want to ramble with you guys some more about Dragon Ball FighterZ. We've been kind of doing like these different rambling or discussion, whatever type videos lately, and I had something else I kind of wanted to talk about that based on what I've been seeing in the comment section. You guys have been messing with these videos, so I figured we get into it. So I'm not exactly sure where this video is going to go or where to start off, but I think I want to start it off by saying that I think that right now Dragon Ball FighterZ is the most balanced it has ever been. This is something that I've seen some people say in the comments, and it almost feels as though when I get this comments, people disagreeing with me about my thoughts and opinions on the current state of the game, whatever. But then there are others who also have my same line of thinking. But I think this is important to note because I didn't realize just how many people have such high stock in character balance or the balance of the roster. Now, I think if you look back on any of the previous versions of the game, there has never been more characters who are strong and viable and can be used in competitive play than right now in DBFZ. And that is, for all intents and purposes, a good thing, right? Now, with that being said, it then begs the question, well, if the balance is so good, then why do people not like the game? Why is the game considered bad or stale or dead? Or, you know what I'm saying? How come people aren't playing it or aren't messing with it as much, etc., right? And that is because, at least in my opinion, character balance is not the end all and be all of a fighting game. There are a lot of other things that are important when it comes to what makes a game good and fun to play and enables that game to have some sort of longevity. But what I didn't realize was just how many people, not only that watch me, but just in general, have like a really high stock or stake, I'm not sure which is the right word to use here in this context, in character balance. They feel like character balance is like one of, if not the most important thing. And if the game isn't balanced well, then the game sucks. If the game is balanced well, then the game is good. And I think what's important to note here is that in a fighting game, there's always going to be tiers, right? There's always going to be characters who are better than others, and no game is ever going to be perfectly balanced. Even a game like Tekken 7, where we literally saw Panda, who was considered the worst character in the game, win the Tekken World Tour Finals when Wrong 2 did it a few years ago, and we're like, oh, Tekken 7's balance is so good. Even that game eventually faltered, and with the introduction of DLC and different balance changes, you saw some characters who were way stronger than others and other characters who were way weaker than others. I don't think I need to tell you guys too much about Leroy Smith or even Akuma. So, you know, it's obviously ideal for a game to be as balanced as it can be. You want as many characters as possible to be strong and fun to play, but that is not what makes or breaks a fighting game to me, because there are plenty of games that I enjoy where there are characters who are significantly weaker and stronger, and like the balance is like this as opposed to perfectly like this, and I still think those games are really good or really fun. Guilty Gear Strive, DNF Duel, I mean, like that, most games. I just feel like most games aren't perfectly balanced, and that's okay. Even right now in Street Fighter 6, I would say that the character that I play in Kimberly is considered pretty weak in the picture of things, but like Street Fighter 6 is a game where I feel like overall character power, much like Dragon Ball FighterZ, is very high. So even the weakest characters are still like okay fighting game characters. But like Kimberly's like one of the weakest characters in the game, and it's just like, it just is what it is, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think like, oh, this game sucks because the character that I play isn't good. Now, of course, as a main of a character, you're always going to want them to be strong. Well, actually, that's not even necessarily true, because there are a lot of people who like, they pride themselves on being like a low tier warrior and playing a character who isn't considered strong, and they get some sort of satisfaction from beating people with a weaker character, or like they feel like they don't want free wins or easy wins. And you see this at all levels of play. There's all different types of play styles and mindsets. And I remember back in season 2 of Dragon Ball FighterZ, even Wawa was quoted as saying that the reason why he didn't play GT Goku, despite the fact that the Gohan GT Goku Super Saiyan Goku team was much better than him playing base Goku at the time, the reason why he didn't play GT Goku is because it was too easy. Like it wasn't fun for him because the character was so good, and like it made the game too easy and a lot less fun for him. So he would usually play Gohan, Goku, and base Goku, even though GT Goku was a lot better. And to that, I would say in situations like that, all you're really doing is holding yourself back. But I feel it, because in the past, I've played my fair share of games where there were certain characters, strategies, team compositions, or whatever that I wouldn't use because I just felt like it was too cheap or it was too easy and things like that. And like, in my opinion of it now, that's kind of a dumb way to look at things, because in a fighting game, you should use every resource available to yourself to win, right? Even with the things that I don't like, right? If something is helping you win, then do it. Obviously, barring like literal cheating and hacking and modding, stuff like that. But if it's in the game, then do it. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's KODs, infinites, top tier characters, whatever the case may be. And I didn't always have that opinion, but I definitely do now. And I think that's something that most people develop if they don't originally have it over time with more experience in playing fighting games and getting more involved in that, you know what I'm saying? But that being said, we're kind of getting all over the place. Like I said, this was going to be a ramble video anyway, but there are several other issues that exist within Dragon Ball FighterZ outside of just character balance, and that's the reason why people don't enjoy the game. So what are some of those issues? Well, I can't speak for everybody, but let's talk about some of the things that I personally do not enjoy about the game, how I think things could be better and what I would change, and so on and so forth. And I don't really have like a list or an order of things, and there's probably going to be some things that I forget because I'm just doing this video off the top of the head, right? Just off the cuff. But like one of the things I really don't like in the game is limit break, right? That's the first one that comes to mind. It's certainly not the most important thing, but I think limit break is dumb. I understand that comeback mechanics are a thing in fighting games, right? Sparking was already there. Marvel has X Factor. All these, there's plenty of games that have things where it's like, oh, when your characters, like their health is lower, they get stronger. Like even the Storm games have Awakening. DNF Duel has its cube system and its Awakenings and stuff. Plenty of fighting games have stuff like that, right? But I felt like because Sparking already existed, adding limit break to the game was not only just unnecessary, but also counterintuitive and counterproductive to the whole idea of speeding up the game, because by introducing limit break, you made it so that players were kept in the fight more. And I get it, because the whole like agenda for Dragon Ball FighterZ is that anybody can pick up the game and play, and it's not a super one-sided game. You're always still in the fight. You can always still win, right? I get that. And for that, in that context, like, yeah, limit break makes sense, but Sparking was already a thing. Like, I personally was making plenty of solo comebacks with Trunks, who's never even been that great, thanks to Sparking. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's part of how I built my reputation as a FighterZ player and like YouTuber and content creator, whatever, was by pulling off these crazy comebacks with Trunks and mixing people up in Sparking and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so with limit break, you made it so that characters do more damage, so that they're able to still compete and hang in the fight, and you made the matches longer. And one of the things about Dragon Ball FighterZ is that people have always said like the matches take too long. People who play the game, and especially people who don't play the game, DBFZ just takes way too long. And I saw some people saying that now, because combos are so powerful and characters do so much damage, that matches go by faster. And yeah, that's sometimes the case. It's not always the case. I feel like they never truly did do enough in the right direction of speeding up the game. And like when I'm in a match, I don't feel like matches take too long. I enjoy the pace of the gameplay and everything like that. Plus with Dragon Ball FighterZ being as cinematic it is, with the supers and the freeze frames with the heavies and everything like that, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a slow, like the game is fast paced, but the matches are gonna take a while. The matches are gonna be slower. And it just is what it is. But limit break was always a change that I felt was really dumb and unnecessary. Like, if it were up to me, I would just completely remove it from the game, because I just don't think we need it. Another thing is the overall power creep of special moves in the game. Now, I'm not obviously opposed to characters getting buffed. Obviously, you want characters to continue to grow and evolve with the game and become more powerful over time. Granted, there are some characters in the roster that, even though overall character power is still very high, they feel kind of obsolete or kind of, you know, dated and whatnot. Trunks, Yamcha, Goku Black. Even though, like, I'm not saying that these characters are necessarily bad or even the worst, although that could be argued. They kind of just haven't evolved as much as a lot of other characters have. They're still doing a lot of very basic and simplistic stuff that they've been doing from the beginning of the game, and haven't really kept up with other characters who are doing much crazier and over the top things with this in terms of combos, mix-ups, whatever the case may be, right? And when I talk about like the evolution of like special moves and whatnot, I kind of touched on this in a recent video, but I'm going to reiterate it here again, right? I remember when Bardock released in Season 1. The fact that Bardock had his Lariat, his 236L, it like broke the game in everyone's mind. Like that was one of the tools that made Bardock broken and to be considered one of the best characters in the game. And all of that Lariat was, now granted, especially at the time, because you had to consider the context of the game, but all that Lariat, it was very strong, but all that Lariat was a nearly full screen special move that was -1 on block, which mattered a lot because Bardock is a character with a 6-frame jab. Some characters have 7-frame jabs, so if it's only -1, there's a lot of characters you can still steal your turn back against, especially if they hesitate at all. So yeah, it was a full screen move, nearly full screen, and it jailed into vanish on block. So if they blocked it, you'd vanish and they were jailed. Now you're plus, and then it comes to RPS of all the different options people have, whether it be reflect, jump, backdash, etc., you know, mashing, supers, reversals, you know what I'm saying, whatever. But yeah, so that move made Bardock very, very strong. And that move made people hate Bardock. Granted, Bardock had a lot of other things as well. He had mix, he had damage, he could get sliding knockdown anywhere on screen. He had one of the best level 3s in the game. He really had it all. But that move paved the way and pioneered things for better or worse. And honestly, admittedly, in my opinion, even though I loved Bardock and was a main of that character and I play him in every Dragon Ball game, I would say it was for the worst, because you went from a character who had a move that was like, oh, it's like, yeah, it's nearly full screen and it's -1, so it's safe on block, right? And they nerfed it to where it's still safe, but it's no longer -1, and it jails an advantage. But they started taking things away from that, so it didn't jail an advantage anymore. It's not -1 anymore, you know what I'm saying? And it made that move weaker and weaker because it was considered too strong. So now we have, again, you take a full screen move and it's safe, right? Now let's make it so that you get full combo off of it by giving it a wall bounce, right? Oh, kind of crazy. Now let's make it so that this EX version of that move not only is nearly full screen, it's safe on block, it gives you full combo off of a wall bounce, it's medium scaled. Whoa. Now, on top of all of that, let's also add to the fact that it's projectile invul. Now we're looking at characters like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, obviously Lab Coat 21, who she lost her medium scaling. Gogeta still has this for whatever reason. And then even Vegito, who had, you know, full screen nearly with his EX kicks. It was nearly full screen, medium scaling. Obviously, they nerfed the scaling on that as well, but safe on block and very safe on whiff. That move just didn't have enough recovery. The point I'm trying to get across is that moves have gotten stronger and stronger and stronger, despite the fact that moves that were way weaker than this before got nerfed in the past. And the risk reward is just way too skewed. You get crazy reward for little to no risk. And that is, to me, one of the biggest issues in the game right now. And is the reason why a lot of people aren't really messing with it, is that you just throw out all these crazy EX moves with a lot of characters and you just get huge rewards. Like if it whiffs, it doesn't matter. If it gets blocked, it doesn't matter. Oh, but if it hits, you die, right? And for me, it's not a matter of the reward being high so much as the risk being low. I feel like if Gogeta, like, so for example, right? Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, his lariat being nearly full screen, projectile, invul, medium scaling, I'm fine with all of that if you make it unsafe on block. If I can 5M him for blocking that, then it's fine. I feel like the move is much more balanced. I don't mind moves being strong or being powerful, but there should be some sort of risk involved with it. Same thing goes for like Lab Coat Spin, Vegito legs. Now, granted, we asked for nerfs for those things. I might have been part of that as well. I usually try my best to stay away from like saying this character needs to be nerfed. And the thing I always do, like in my videos, in my mind, is like, oh, I should just get better. Right now, granted, some people are gonna say that's cap, but if you say that's cap, you don't really be listening to me or watch me enough, because I always talk about, I always acknowledge my mistakes and my flaws and saying like, oh, I don't want this thing to be nerfed. I want to get better. Now, there have been times where I have said I wanted some things to get nerfed, but there's definitely a lot of times people think I wanted something nerfed when I never said that. But I digress. Tangent, getting off topic. Risk and reward, right? So if something's gonna have crazy reward and have all these properties to it, it should be risky. If he whiffs, he should die. If I block it, he should bleed. You know what I'm saying? And that's just it for me. And the same thing goes for a lot of normals in the game. Like we gave characters these crazy good normals. Some too good. Vegito 5M, Gogeta auto combo, Team Gohan auto combo. And again, there's been adjustment to normals and stuff all the time, but it's just like, again, we're giving bigger and bigger normals, especially the mediums, which obviously give you medium scaling. These moves are safe. And I'm not saying that like normal should be unsafe and everything like that, but it's just, again, more risk and reward. At the very least, like Vegito having like his full screen 5M, which is obviously a 5M, has a decent hitbox on its medium scaling. Like if he whiffs that, he should die. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he should bleed for it. You know what I'm saying? There's just too many things in the game where it's like, if it whiffs, it doesn't matter. If it gets blocked, it doesn't matter. And it should matter. And this next point, I'm honestly not too sure what exactly to pinpoint or where to point the finger or what example to give, or maybe I'll figure it out as I talk my way through it. But one of Dragon Ball FighterZ like goals from the very beginning, like part of their MO has always been to make the game very accessible. The game has always had a very low skill floor, and as with most fighting games, if not all fighting games, it's going to have a high skill ceiling. The thing about Dragon Ball FighterZ is that I felt like they executed that beautifully, perfectly, absolutely wonderfully right from the start. Granted, the game hasn't always been a hit with everyone, but it was a hit with the majority, I would say. When DBFZ came out, it was the hottest game in town. That first year or two, DBFZ was the biggest game at every event. Everybody and their mama played it. Thousands of players at every event. It was not unlike what Guilty Gear Strive was prior to the release of Street Fighter 6. For the last couple of years, Street Fighter 6 had been running everything. And that's kind of how DBFZ was, especially in year one. And granted, it had its haters for sure, but everybody was playing it. Even people who was talking trash about it was playing it because it was Dragon Ball and it was hype, right? And the game was very accessible. You had people from all different walks of life, whether that was fighting game players or casual players or anime players or people who played Tekken, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or Guilty Gear or whatever. Everybody was playing it. And even people who weren't big fighting game players were playing it. And it was the first fighting game that I got really competitive in. You know what I'm saying? But they took that idea of making the game accessible and basically easy and pushed it just way too far, in my opinion and in a lot of people's opinions, where it's like they constantly want literally anybody and everybody to just be able to pick up the game, mash some buttons, and just go absolutely ballistic and win games. And it happens. And what this has done, in my opinion, is created a much less refined level of skill in the game and a much more chaotic, random, and just overall like very scrambly game that isn't really fun to play. It's kind of hype to watch at times, right? It can still be a bit of a snooze fest compared to some of the older seasons, in my opinion. And we're gonna have some other videos talking about that as well. Actually, I'm gonna let you guys know right now. I have a video coming out where we're talking about the things that were good and the bad about previous seasons of the game, and I'm gonna be joined by the Kill Sage, who's been around the game since the very beginning. Now, granted, he doesn't compete in the game anymore. He's still around the community. He still dibbles and dabbles in the game a tiny bit, and he, like I said, he's one of the few people I know have been around since the very beginning. So I'm gonna have him on the channel. But yeah, like the game is way more chaotic, way more loose, and like for better or worse, like in some ways it's good, but in a lot of ways it's bad, where it's just like the more random and mashy and chaotic you are, the more you're rewarded for it. And that's not always necessarily what the game was. And like, yeah, the game always had auto combos. You always had Bardock 5LL. There was, and Team Gohan has been a thing for a minute, and like even Goku Black. Like, I get that, right? Again, I'm not looking at seasons 1 and 2 with like rose tinted glasses and forgetting all the BS that existed. I was there for Android 16 hard knockdown into unblockable mix-ups, vortexes. I was there for Bardock. I was there for Cell Kid Buu. I was there for Snap Meta. I was there for Fuzzies. I was there for all of that. So don't think that I'm forgetting about that stuff and thinking about the flaws or the bad things. We gonna talk about that in that upcoming video. But what I'm saying is that right now, more than ever, the game is more chaotic than ever. And not only is it more chaotic, but you're rewarded more heavily than ever for just being super rambunctious and all over the place. And especially at a competitive level, like that's not fun. And even for someone like me at a casual level, that's not fun. Granted, I guess I'm more than casual. I'm somewhere between like the competitive and casual level. You know what I'm saying? And it's fun for a lot of people, but I don't think it's fun for the core community of this game, or at least the vocal ones. It could be the vocal minority. I could be wrong. I mean, granted, Dragon Ball FighterZ, it's despite what we say about the game being stale or dead or blah, 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 there's still hundreds and thousands of people on that game, you know, across all the platforms. Like if I pull up the Steam DB chart right now, it's got to be at least 1,000 or 2 people on DBFZ at this exact moment. This video is being recorded at damn near midnight. Like if I look up Dragon Ball FighterZ right now, how many people are online on this game at this exact moment? There are 1,200 people on Dragon Ball FighterZ right now on Steam at 11 p.m. at night. You know what I'm saying? And that's just PC. So it's like the game's far from that. Like there's literally still thousands of people. That doesn't even count all the people who are on PlayStation, which the game's probably more popular on PlayStation. And then there's Xbox and Switch to take into account as well. So like, you know what I'm saying? There's still people playing the game, but at least from all the feedback that I'm seeing from people on Twitter and Twitch and YouTube comments and etc., is that like, we're not happy with the current state. We still gonna play it because of the memories we have of the game and or because it's Dragon Ball and we love Dragon Ball, but like, where it's at now really ain't it. But anyway, this video is already longer than I really wanted it to be. I could sit here for like an hour or two probably just rambling and talking about all the different things, especially if like I was streaming. It could probably be a few hours where I'm talking with chat and stuff. And obviously there are other things that I don't like and things that I would change. For example, in order to cut down like and negate like all the randomness and all the mashing and stuff, like I feel like auto combos, for example, shouldn't come out on whiff. So for example, like you shouldn't be getting anti-aired by Gogeta 5LLL because he mashed square 3 times while you were in the air floating above his head. Like 5LL should be able to come out, that's fine. But the third hit of auto combo shouldn't come out on whiff. That's how I feel. I think that would fix a lot in the game. Or another thing, for example, like I don't really like C assist, but that's like I'm not gonna say I'm over it, but like I accept what it is, but I just think the whole concept and idea of them is super corny and lame. C assist should have just been a third special move that comes out as an assist, like just like an A assist and a B assist. Maybe that'd be boring to some people. I just feel like that's how it should have been. It would have been better off that way. And granted, like you could say, oh, but C assists are like more unique, or they do this and that or whatever, but it's like, but all C assists for the most part are essentially like, most of them are doing the same thing as each other and they're not as unique. So like you can like, obviously like if I was conversing with somebody, I could have a more well thought out conversation or an argument / debate about this, but like I can see the idea where some people are like, oh, but it's more interesting, whatever, to have the C assists. But it's like, are they really interesting though? Because most C assists are all doing the same thing as each other. But I digress. And yeah, man, there's a bunch more things I'm sure I could go through and talk about. I don't like this, I don't like that, I would change this, I would change that. But I get into my rambling bag, and here we are 20 minutes later, and I didn't want the video to be 20 minutes long. But if y'all want more of this, I could do more of this. If you want one with more structure, I can. And it sounds like my pizza's here. I could do one with more structure. But I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab my food and then we'll wrap this up. All right, I'm back. Anyway, I was thinking to myself, it could be worthwhile and it could be fun to invite some other creators and players back on the channel and for stream or whatever, and talk about things that we would change about the overall gameplay mechanics and systems that would make the game more fun and more enjoyable and a lot less random and chaotic. And that would bring the game back to a place that we all really love and enjoy. Now, the only thing I'll say about that is, and I probably should have said this earlier in the video because I'm sure people are probably gonna leave it in the comments because they didn't make it this far, because I've had some comments like this already, is that I don't think anything that we discuss or talk about is really going to have much of an impact or change, because the next balance patch that we're supposed to be getting is most likely going to be the last one, and we've thought the last one was the last one for a while. Like we got how many patches since then? But this next one, we're getting it at the end of the month. And I'm pretty sure that this is actually going to be the final one, unless they break my ankles and surprise the hell out of me, right? Because this patch is coming at the end of the month, it's probably already finished or close to being finished. So I don't think in the amount of time from now until that patch, anything that like I could do by getting a bunch of players together and talking about it or whatever, or sending some sort of email or getting some sort of, I don't think it would matter. I don't think it would matter. And frankly, we kind of already did that with the stream that we did before about talking about what characters need to be buffed and nerfed and things that we don't like and whatever. And like, it'd be fun to do something like that again. But clearly none of that mattered or made it to the ears of anyone who had any say in anything, because the game is still going in the direction that none of us there liked or thought was healthy for the game. And they double, triple, quadrupled down on that. And here we are with the game that in its current state. So I don't think that will actually have any impact or effect, but it could still be fun just for content or just for conversation nonetheless. But that's that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can stay tuned for all this content up when I bring you. With all that being said, that's pretty much all today. Remember, nothing could happen to you. Swing the bat. Later.